Welcome to another edition of Exotic Gardening UK, Yorkshire Kris Weekly. I want to talk to you now about the hardy banana Musa basjoo. We're in the middle of March now, and whether or whether you haven't wrapped up your Musa basjoo, depending where you live and what you've decided to do for your overwintering protection, now is the time to let them get on with it and start growing. So if you've had them protected with straw or lagging of some type, now is the time where you can take it off. Looked at the weather forecasts, looking ahead, there is no major cold in the weather forecast at all for the next few weeks. Yes, there will be some nighttime frosts which will damage the new leaves coming out, but the stems, which are the things you want to protect, and that's what you've been protecting over winter, they are hardy down to -3, -4 for short periods of time, or sub-zero for a little bit longer. And we're not going to get those really cold temperatures now. We're moving into spring. The days are warmer, so even when we get cold nights, it soon bounces back and any frost is defrosted in the strong sunshine that we're getting now. Now we move through March into April. So if you've got them wrapped up, definitely get the tops of the wrapping off, and you can remove all of it really, depending where you live, but for most of the UK you can definitely do so. These have been unwrapped all winter, they've not been protected whatsoever, and as you can see, the stems are nice and firm, but this is a well-established clump, and I knew the thick stems that they'd be fine down to -4 or so for short periods of time. And we have had nearly -4 on a couple of occasions, but it has been a very mild winter, so these have been fine. On a colder winter, these would have been cut to the ground without protection. And as you can see at the top now, even though in this very exposed battered position, the battered leaves here, they are green, they are growing. If I just take off a bit of the top off there, you can see it's nice and green throughout and the leaves are unfurling. The ones in my front garden are a bit further on than this because they've got the shelter and they're closer to the house, so they have got more green leaves showing than these. But it's nice, even the smaller stems down here that are only not much thicker than a pencil are showing green and not gone to mush either. And the tiniest ones right down here, they've gone a bit soft obviously, but right at the base they're firm, so they'll grow away this year as well. And if you're lucky enough to have any stems that are over 2.5 meters tall, they'll more than likely flower this year. Once they get to a certain size and age, they do tend to flower. They can flower at shorter heights like these that are about just over 2 meters, but once you've got 2.5 meters of stem, then they're more likely than not to flower. So that's Musa basjoo. Time to let these get on and do their thing. One thing I'm not doing yet is removing the shelters from the arid bed and the aloe polyphylla down here, because although they can cope with frost and ice to some degree, and definitely down to the temperatures we could get in late March and April, you can still get marking of the leaves and some damage if you do get lots of rain and then some icy frosty mornings, so I'm leaving them covered for now. Now under these dead leaves is my Gunnera manicata, the real one, and this has been covered up in the old leaves in autumn, and now because it's been warmer, I've had quite a few warm days and a few mildish nights, then growth has started. So if we have a look down here, if I take off these outer leaves, the dead leaves, you can see we have growth now. Some nice fresh green leaves. They'll unfurl, might have a couple of small leaves to begin with, and then the huge massive leaves, if I step back, will hopefully cover all this area in late spring and summer. Now these can easily get frosted still early for this, but a little bit of frosting's not going to do too much damage. It might crisp up the first few leaves, but after that the other leaves will emerge and quickly replace them and cover this area, make a very impressive statement plant in the garden. Because I've been working on my garage, I've had to clear out the garage of all the arid plants that were overwintering in there, and a few of them you can see in shot now, so some of the aloes and cacti and some small agaves as well. And they've done okay over winter, so they've been in quite dark conditions. They've not been watered once at all, so they're very dry now. But I've just brought them out a couple of days ago. I left them in a shady area at first and just brought them here now, where I don't want the strong sun to get onto them and bleach out the leaves, which they can do even on arid plants when they've been indoors for quite a long time. But the sun isn't quite strong enough to do that yet, or hasn't been, and so far so good. The plants look fine, and with the rain we're having, obviously they're going to get watering, and because they're in pots, if it does turn really cold, I can either put fleece over them or just quickly bring them back into the garage. I would normally leave these in the garage till April, which is the best time to do it if you're going to be worried about late frosts, or damaging frost should I say, because obviously you can get frost right through till May in most of the country on occasion, although it's unlikely. But because I've had to do work on my garage, they've been brought out a few weeks earlier, but I think they'll be fine. Now an update on my garage to grow space project. As you can see, there's been some progress. I have painted all the rafters here, and before I could do that I had to clean everything. So this garage was built, I think, in the middle to late 60s, and when you look at the eaves and all the spaces up here, they were covered in 60 years worth of dust and grime and dead bugs and all sorts of rubbish that I've cleared out. Obviously I wanted to use a dust mask to do this, but unfortunately none were available. Everywhere I went, all the dust masks had been bought for some reason. So I had to just plod on anyway. I've hoovered, I've swept, I've cleaned, I've got a wet rag and cleaned everything out. Dusted and cleaned all the rafters above me and in the garage. There's 14 sets of rafters going on each side of this apex roof, and there's several cross beams as well, and these random old rusty metal beams. And I've gone and painted it. I've used a sort of outdoor paint, this Garden Shades by Cuprinol. We use White Daisy, and I have given them 3 coats of paint, and it took absolutely ages to paint this. It took me 2 days to do the full lot. I did half, so I did 7 lots of rafters, painted that 3 times, then did the other half the next day. So it's taken a long time to do all the painting up there. But obviously it looks messy at the moment, but once the roof is off and the polycarbonate roof is installed, I'll have nice white rafters with the looking out onto the clear roof. I've also done more painting and filling out, so I've done more than 10 kilograms of mortar to fill in all the gaps of the crumbling mortar on this wall and given that another coat of paint. I've painted all the rest of the walls around here as well, but as you can see on this back wall there's lots of holes, so I'm going to go and repoint all this area as well, mortar that, and then I'm going to do a couple more coats of the paint on here as well. So the idea is to make a nice clean fresh surface and limit the amount of dust in here. So I'm going to carry on painting, get the roof removed in a couple of weeks, and then get on with the polycarbonate, and that will be shown in upcoming videos, so you can see how I've basically created a grow space from an old garage that I didn't really use. Thanks for watching this edition of Yorkshire Kris Weekly. Join me next time for more gardening.